Welcome to the Core Women Podcast, the place for women entrepreneurs, authors, and self-starters looking to build community and gain valuable insights through expert interviews with women at the top of their game. Join your host, podcaster, producer, expert coach, entrepreneur, and author, Dr. Summer Watson, as she aims to inspire and empower you through these candid conversations. Lean in and embrace the journey. It's time to start the show. Here's your host, Dr. Summer Watson.
Today on the show, I would like to welcome Dr. Liz Palacios. She is the first generation student from San Antonio, Texas. She attended Baylor University, where she received both her bachelor's degree in business administration and a master's degree in student services and professional counseling. In 2002, she earned her PhD in school psychology. She joined Baylor in 1981, where she served in various areas at Baylor, including graduate minority recruitment in the graduate school and community services in the Department of Student Activities. In 2002, she joined the faculty in the School of Education, and in 2006, she was named Dean for Student Development in the Division of Student Life. In 2016, she was named the first special assistant to the president on diversity at Baylor until 2019. In 2021, she was appointed as the special assistant to the vice president for student life for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging at the university. And after 40 years, she retired in May of 2022 from Baylor to start a new chapter in her life, enjoying counseling, speaking, consulting, traveling, and most of all, her 9 grandchildren. We certainly have so much to talk about, so let's get right into this and welcome, Liz.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm going to call you Dr. Liz. If you don't mind. Okay, so
As long as
before
I don't have Dr. Ruth questions, I'm okay.
you know what? She was awesome, though. She was a
I
leader.
loved her. I loved her. I'm not the.
I get it. I get it. But before we jump into the aspects of your professional life, if you could describe your journey in one word to this point, what would that word be and why?
I was just thinking about my life because I've had to work with a class of mine that we were talking about our storylines. I was going through my storylines, the ups and downs and of our life experiences. It's just, I think it's resilience.
Mm.
Resilience. You don't want to dwell on the hardships and the obstacles, but like I think the theme of my life has always been people telling me, you can't do that. Why are you doing that? You can't do that. Even if you did, you won't be successful. And I think about just the resilience as I was able to just, with a lot of help, get through the naysayers and get to where I really wanted to be.
Oh, fantastic. I love that word because it is so important to get back up or continue through with those naysayers saying A, B, or C, or
Mhm.
trying to push you aside or push you down. And yet you have accomplished so much. I have so many questions for you, but my next question is, when you look back on all the things you've accomplished during your life, which are many, a lot, what would you say was the most significant step that you took along your path that helped you achieve your goals? What you put into perspective as something as a priority for you?
It would have to still be family. Even as I was going through my personal and professional growth, as I met my husband and started our family, going through all of the education for my doctorate, I was commuting a 3-hour round trip to the University of Texas in Austin. But everything was always around the kids, the family. As I was a professor, everybody said, "You're crazy. You'll never get tenure. You can't do that and have a family." And that was one thing I said, this is my pinnacle. And even after the loss of my husband, my kids and my grandkids have really been just that source of love and strength. And so when I'm told, no, you can't do this and have a family, no, you can, because your priorities is that one thing, it's non negotiable.
Absolutely. I'm going to tap into something that you said that is not on my outline here. You did recently lose your husband.
Mm,
That's huge. That takes healing and it takes resilience to move through that, not get over it, but to move through it
yeah.
because you will never depart from the love and how you treasured that other human being in your life.
Mhm.
So, where are you today with that? And where has that taken you since the loss of your husband?
So it'll be 3 years this month. And I describe it to people as my awakening. I feel like I've been numb for the last 2.5 years and healing, not stagnant, but just healing. And, just a lot of faith and family is very important, especially faith. Just believing that it's not that he's absent or he's void. We know that his presence through our lives, legacy, and even his spirit. So that's been a constant thing that I've had a lot of support in just knowing that there's no end to us, right? At least that's my faith. And so God has been amazing. So numbness probably of just healing. It's like when you have major surgery, it hurts, but as time goes on, it's a duller ache, but it's still an ache.
Yeah.
And so today, I think it's like this is my first, really even my first season, I guess, of being able to give back. I've been giving and serving, knowing that my heart will follow, and I've been traveling, knowing that my joy will come back. And so just moving forward, like you said, just moving through it. But now being able to celebrate and laugh at things that we used to say or do, and it's not just a sadness or just grief. It's now I get to share. This is really just awakening. Yeah, just coming back to life.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, that speaks to how you haven't been stagnant. You just didn't stay in one place. You actually, in this last year, as you had mentioned, you traveled. You got to explore the world. Let's
People
talk
thought I
about,
was crazy.
oh, really? Why?
I've never traveled. My family, they're not world travelers. And I went with friends and colleagues. And so I was always in a very nice group of people that
Yeah,
loved on me too.
yeah,
But yeah, I think people just said, well, you're grieving. Why would you want to go and visit a country? I said, because the beauty of those countries and the people, the culture are healing me.
yeah,
So it's a two-way street.
yeah,
But, being a psychologist and knowing the things that we do, I knew I wanted to stay still so badly, and it's like, "No, I can't. I
yeah.
can't."
Well, I love hearing about this story because, I have another friend who lost her spouse about 2 years ago, and she's from America. She's an American citizen, but she was able to get, I think, not dual citizenship, but she was able to get a long-term, like, passport or something for Japan. And she moved there after the loss of her husband this last year. And she's exploring, she's resilient, getting back up. And doing something that's uniquely different for her, and yet something
Exactly.
that she may have always wanted to do that she didn't
Mhm.
do, being married, and that's okay because that was a different trajectory, but she didn't
Exactly.
just stand still like you. She did
Yeah.
something and she continued to make movement. And I think that's a huge message here because a
Mhm.
lot of times something like that might paralyze someone.
It can. It can just destroy the soul and destroy the body and mind.
Yeah.
We have too much to do here.
Yeah.
We have a short time in life, so yeah, it can happen very easily.
Well, it absolutely can. But as you said, you continue to move forward. You had your time and still will at different times. You'll touch back into those
Mhm.
cycles of grief. We know we studied Kubler-Ross, and
Yeah.
and we can come back to different parts of that cycle
Yes,
of grief,
it's
right?
not linear.
It's not linear, and we
Mm.
absolutely can revisit certain things. But again, as you had mentioned, we touch back into the memories, into the legacy, into the spirit
Mhm.
that still exists that your husband left in this world,
Mhm.
which is so amazing because here you are, just your own spirit, and then his combined with that, you're giving back to the world. So, were there people, and I think you kind of touched on this, but were there people or mentors
Mm.
that helped guide or support you along your journey? Because you've done so many incredible things. There may have been, as you mentioned, some naysayers. There may have been some people
Mhm.
that pushed back and said, yeah, as a mom or as a woman, you're not going to be able to do this. But
Right.
there were people that helped support you through these different processes that you went through to get where you are today.
Most definitely. I think about my parents. My dad didn't graduate from high school. My mom graduated from high school and was able to actually, it was a program pilot, and they allowed her to do kind of a dual credit. And she was able to graduate from high school, not only high school, but with an LVN, an associate's degree. And that was incredible back in the 50s, right?
Yes.
And so my parents had just suffered so much discrimination. They moved us to Houston. We were middle class. Life was comfortable. My parents were very strong, instilling confidence. You know how moms and dads are. You can do anything you want. Okay, well, I believed it. And then they went into the ministry, which was amazing. Now we moved to San Antonio and we lived in a low SES. We went to the second poorest district in Texas for school, the second poorest ISD. Because my parents were students, they couldn't work full time. So all of a sudden we went from comfort to, okay, now we're on welfare and we're eating, government food and we're doing all these. And it was a shock. But those things helped me realize that we can overcome. And when I was about to graduate, I had a high school guidance counselor tell me, well, here's your advisor slip. You're going to be a cosmetologist. That way you won't have 8 kids and be a burden on society. My high school was 99% Mexican American and low SES. And so apparently that's what she was doing for all of us. She was helping us find a way to survive and not be a burden. But I wanted to go to college. My parents, didn't know much, but they wanted me to go to college. And being first generation, you just don't have a navigation. You don't have anyone to help you navigate. But I told the counselor, I listen, I don't do hair. I'm not going to do anybody else's hair. Don't do my hair. I just, I don't want to go to college. And she sat there and said, no, well, you just, usually you people aren't successful. And so the you people was a surprise.
Oh,
And because of her words, I actually went to school where she graduated from. And I said, I'm going to that school. And she just kind of shook her head and she said, even if you got into this school, you would never fit in. And the people that helped me get through that, because I did get in, it was the same school that I was able to meet professors and meet staff members and students and classmates that a lot of them said, "What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at a field picking cotton? That's what Mexicans do." And it's like, no, I mean, I'm a city girl. I pick cotton from HEB, aisle 13, but I'm a city girl. So I had to educate the people around me. But going back to the people that really helped me see through this is that, no, I can't get through this. And professors, said, Liz, you've got this. You were prepared, but you've had an opportunity now to close the gap. So let's do this. Let's work hard. And so that was a big impetus of why I stayed at the university. And from being, wasn't going to be fit in, that was the same university that I was able to go from an administrative assistant to a dean and get my doctorate. And that was the push of saying, you know what? There's a lot to be said about this journey, and I'm going to take it.
and it also speaks to that resiliency. It speaks to
Mm.
your tenacity. It speaks to
I call it stubbornness.
that too. And it speaks to that counselor who puts you in a box, who wanted
Mhm.
to fit you people in a box. And that could have taken somebody down. And
And I'm
yet
sure it did.
you didn't let it, because some of those other folks may not have had the support system, the family support system that you had, may not have had the resources. You still had parents that gave you the foundation who said, you can do anything you want. And you
Yes.
believed them.
I believed it.
And that was so important because I feel like I was given that by my mom as well. And she was a single
Mhm.
mom. We didn't have everything in the world. Yes, I did have grandparents that were more well off, but I didn't look at them like their money was my money. So I worked at 15. I bought my prom dress.
Mhm.
I bought my
Yep.
yearbooks, like those kinds of things we did. And my
Yes.
mom, yeah, said, you can still do anything you want. And just having those words, having somebody believe in
Mhm.
you like that, guess what? We did,
Yeah.
Dr. Liz
Yes.
and Dr. Watson. And even if it meant doing hair, that's great. Because for some people,
Yes.
that
It's
trade,
wonderful.
it's
Oh,
wonderful, right?
it's wonderful.
Being a plumber, that's wonderful. And that's what my
Yes.
mother
And
said.
we need, yes,
My
the
mother
best.
said, you can do anything you want as long as you're happy. Just be happy doing it.
Yeah.
And that to
Yes.
me meant the world. And so you had 40 incredible years in a career in education. You started a new chapter in your life, enjoying counseling, speaking, consulting, traveling, and your 9 grandchildren. How are you adjusting to this transition today?
Oh my gosh. Today, this moment, I am just filled with joy. I'm able to laugh again. I'm able to live again. And a lot of it's just being able to give back. This is my chapter of giving back. So when I retired, I said, okay, these are the 4 things I really want to do. I want to travel, get my first passport. I want to counsel again because I hadn't been able to do therapy because I was busy as in administration and want to teach again, which I didn't want to teach in the classroom, but I wanted to teach and be there for other adults and other college students. So I wanted to give back somehow, but those were things travel, counsel, and teach. And then the last one is write a book. I haven't gotten that far
Oh, you will.
because I'm going to do it. But those were the 4 things I said, those are the things I would love to do. In the last year and a half, I've been able to do all of them except that last one. I'm getting
Mhm.
there.
You mentioned that there are other people that supported you through your journey. Now you
Yeah.
are giving back. Can you tell us about a program or something that you're doing in your career outside of education
Yeah.
now regarding your counseling, your speaking? I'm sure there's other ways you had mentioned to me that you're giving back.
Yes. I joined a women's organization, and the organization was created to support women, to give them the skill set, and to give them a safe place to have other women that want to become executives or go into leadership in their companies. And so this particular organization, Aurora, they contract with different businesses. They said, here, these are women that we really want to support. They have a beautiful curriculum on leadership, anything from negotiating salary, how to lead a team, how do we know ourselves, how do we become resilient. A lot of it was just right there with me. That was the same thing that I thought, this is what I believe in. This curriculum is usually about 6 weeks, but it's pretty intense, and the women have a chance to talk to each other. They're usually from the same organization or business, and they get to practice the skills. They learn about just experiences that they can use to be in the workforce. And we'd say, bring all of who you are. Don't change to be accepted in your company or your organization. Bring who you are so that you are unique and authentic and you can change and help better the company. So I fell in love with that and I still do that. This fall, I'm just one of the guides, diversity and just understanding diversity, inclusion, belonging up again up my passionate alley. So we're working with men and women and having discussions about how do we see the person as a whole. We don't want to say, oh, I don't see color. Whoa, that's who I am. That's part of who I am. But we have so many identities and so many intersectionalities. That's what we're learning and teaching about. So I'm having a blast in getting to have these opportunity in the community I'm involved with. It's called the Hispanic Leaders Network. And so we have a portion of it that's more of a mentoring program. You were telling me about your interest in your
Mhm,
your new ventures,
mhm.
but it's called Navigando, and Navigando is navigating in Spanish. And so I'm working with 2 different high schools, but one particularly that reminds me so much of my high school that I went to. But these are newcomers to our country, and a lot of them are Spanish speakers. And so they're wanting to become citizens. They want to become contributing, people that are here. And so what we do is we bring in speakers that talk to them about college, aspirations, passion. Where do you find your passion? What do you want to be? What's that sense of who you are? And now that you're here. And so we bring in professionals to come and speak with them, to mentor with them. We take them to colleges but it's so cool because these kids come in very timid and they just embolden, I guess, to make the best of their life here and to give back. So it's a very important thing, I think, in this time, especially in our time in our country. We have to find those who want to be part of our country to be able to find who they are and how do they contribute and give back. Because there's a lot of people who just, that's all they need is an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love working with high school students.
I do too. And people
They're
used to say, why do you like working with high school students or that age group? And I said, you know what? Because they do push back and they do
yeah.
have questions and they're trying to separate from their parents or their caregivers to develop
Mhm.
their own ideas, to develop their
Yes.
own value set. They're doing that, and that's okay. Because
Yeah.
guess what we did? We did the
We
same
did.
thing. And it's called
We
individuation,
There
right?
you go.
And so we tried to individuate, and that's just part of the
Uh,
cycle.
yes.
And so we
Yes.
either embrace it or we get in this power struggle with it. And I always
Yeah.
embraced it because I thought, this is so much fun. I love learning from them because they
Oh,
are
yeah.
pushing back
Yes.
and they are bringing new insight to me too, so I can
Mhm.
get a better understanding of where they're coming from. And that's why I love what you're doing with these different programs too, in regards to the equity, the inclusion, the diversity. And you're not just saying disregard your color, you're saying that is
Mhm.
part of who I
Mhm.
am.
That's right.
You're one of the first people I've spoken to about this that has said that. And
Wow.
it seems like, wow, that shouldn't be a light bulb. That should be like, why
Right.
haven't more people said that? Because that makes it more inclusive, that you're
Right.
not just forgetting about that part of you.
Mhm.
And I think that's the part that people generally first come in contact with you and they look at you and they make the
They make
assumption.
assumptions. Yep.
And it's like,
Yep.
okay. And yet you've taken it a step further, even when they did, and said, what can I do with this situation? Can I sit here and be angry for what they did, or can I educate?
Yeah.
And Dr. Liz, I think we're both the same in this way, where I actually would sit down and I would have a conversation. So the next
Yes.
time they ran into somebody that looked like me, the assumption of A, B, or C, it was different.
I hope so. Yes. Yes.
And I spent many hours throughout my life doing that. And because
Mhm.
I could have
Mhm.
become angry, or I could have become
Yes.
resistant, or I could have
Yes.
walked away, but I chose not to. I actually chose to sit. It happened to me even in a bar. And this guy goes, well, you're such and such. And I said, you don't even know who I am. And I just sat down by him and I said, let's have a chat. Let's get to know each other. And he did. And after I got it to leave, he's like, why do you have to
Wow.
leave? We were having such a good chat. I said, exactly. I said, but I got to go now.
Exactly.
Maybe next time we can have another chat.
When you enlighten one person, the ripples that you cause.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like that pebble in the water, right? And you see those
Mhm.
concentric circles forming. It's just like that. And it may
Yes.
not be easy initially. It may
Mhm.
not be easy.
Tiring sometimes. You get tired of educating everybody.
You do.
That's what
And
my
some
college students tell me
Yeah,
too.
sometimes you gotta just, okay, take a break, take a breather, take a pause, walk on. And then sometimes it's worth it to sit down and
Oh,
say,
yeah.
let's have a conversation. And it doesn't even have to be a hard conversation. It can just be a conversation about getting to know each other.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So that's what I love about what you've done, what you're doing, even with so much that has happened transitionally in your life that you haven't stood still, but you've also hopefully taken care of yourself during that process as well
Mm,
by
mm.
travel, by spending time with family, by doing some of the things that you truly love and are continuing to move forward with your life. We continue to self-actualize until we're gone.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And you are a model of that. So thank you so much. I've loved hearing about your story, what you're doing, what your goals are. As we come to the close of the interview, my last question is if you were to give the listeners one tip about how they can achieve their goals, even if, let's say, they're doing something unique or different that maybe their family or friends don't understand, what's that
Mhm.
first step that they can take to achieve that goal?
The first step is just believe that it will be accomplished. To visualize this is something I want and to visualize it and to say, okay, this is where I'm going. And all the choices you make should take you to that goal. When I was getting my doctorate, I'm sure you remember it's very traumatic. But the first thing I did was put Dr. Liz Palacios on my computer. I saw that every time I was doing my assignments or doing whatever, and I would see Dr. Liz Palacios. And it really just helps you to envision, okay, I'm going to get there and this is how it's going to be. And even if it's not the journey you thought, it's not the
Yeah.
route you thought, if that's something that's truly in your heart and you know that's your purpose, don't give up because what other people think you cannot do.
Right. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Dr.
My
Liz, for being on the Core Women podcast with me today.
I have enjoyed it. Thank you, Dr. Watson. I love it.
Absolutely. You can follow Dr. Elizabeth Palacios on LinkedIn.
Thank you for joining us on the Core Women podcast with Dr. Summer Watson. We're so glad you're here and would love to connect more with you. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Core Women and on Twitter at Core Women One. For more about Core Women and Dr. Watson, visit corewomen.com. Want more support and resources for amazing women like you? Great! Join Dr. Watson and Jen Fontanilla at the Life, Love, and Money Collective, a core women production that aids in understanding the key traits that might be getting in the way of living a life that you are absolutely passionate about. Connect with Summer and Jen and find out more at thelifeloveandmoney.com.